You know, they have bottles.
Kavod Harav, how are you?
Good evening, ladies. Thank
How are
God.
you? Baruch Hashem.
Sorry to make you wait. I had to restart my computer. Something was not working.
It's okay.
Okay, so looks like we're on Tet 9. Yeah. So we'll start with the tour. Right, so it says in the tour like this. Reach ra she'eno ikar. If you have a bad smell, but it doesn't really have a source, you go on hafacha o yotze mimenu, right, asur b'divrei Torah. So he says, right, what would be an example of that? For instance, just gas, right? There's no source there. So because of that, nevertheless, though, if you smell it, you're not allowed to do divrei Torah until he finishes, until the smell goes away. Same thing, all the more so he says for Kriyat Shema, so he says, right, that so it depends on who did it, right? In other words, if it was that person himself, the gas came out of him, so then he's not allowed. But if it came out of somebody else, so then he says you're allowed to do divrei Torah or Kriyat Shema also. He says, yeah, so he says the Shema is forbidden. So for Torah, you're allowed to continue. When it comes to Shema, you have to wait till the smell goes away. But that's the end of the tour. Okay, so let's go to Bet Yosef. So it says Bet Yosef like this. Reach ra she'eno ikar. Right, as we said, right, you have a bad smell, but no source. The Sopek Misha Meto, it's over there in the same Gemara. They asked this rabbi, if you have a bad smell but has no source, what's the din, right? What are you allowed to do there? Oh, so he says, you know what? We keep on studying, even though there are some people passing wind over there, right? We don't care. We keep studying. That's only regarding words of Torah. But when it comes to Kriyat Shema, no, you're not allowed to. So you got to wait till it stops.
Kabbalah Hakav, I'm sorry. This also applies when the men have to fill in, correct?
Oh, how? Well, the thing is, we already discussed this in the laws of tefillin, that you're not allowed to, pass wind when you're wearing tefillin.
Okay.
That's a big no-no. You got to be careful about that.
Yes.
So that's a different issue, but now we're talking about without tefillin.
Right. Just wanted to make sure that if this applied with tefillin.
Yeah, it's
Although
even worse.
Okay. Thank you.
It's even worse, yeah. So especially he himself, the one who was wearing the tefillin, he did it himself, Then it's even worse. Okay, so Rashi, right? So he says that's only when somebody else does it, but if it's his own, no. So what does that mean? He's got to stop learning until the smell goes away. Rashi explains, so he says these people are sleeping, and when people are sleeping, sometimes the wind, they pass wind even without knowing whatever. It happens. That's only regarding learning Torah. Mishum delo efshar, because why? So it's not possible. What does that mean? In other words, you can't stop every time somebody passes wind. Stop learning. It's just not very practical. So therefore, the rabbis didn't agree there. When it comes to Kriyat Shema, so what should he do? Let him go outside and read outside, whatever, right? Go away from the smell. But if it's his own, so then he's got to wait until the smell goes away. It's written in this book, Katuv B'Shema Rashba. It says the name of the Rashba. The Reach Rash eno ikar. If you have a bad smell, right, which has no source, as we said, so he says, he describes it a little bit differently. He says we're talking about excrement which is covered. So what does that mean? That you smell it, but it's covered, so it's less severe. Katava Rosh, says the Rosh. So that would be like, for instance, let's say you have a kid with a diaper, right? So what happens, right? That it's covered, but you smell it sometimes, it comes out. So because of that, you'd have to be careful about that. You'd have to stop. Okay, so the Tava Rosh says the Rosh B'Tshuva response. Klal Daled Siman Aleph Shemapiach B'Shat Limudo. So he says the person who passes wind when he's studying Torah, he doesn't really have to walk away or something, but he just has to wait till the smell goes away. So he doesn't have to get up or something. Just sit there and wait, until it goes away, and then they'll continue. Katava Mordechai, says the Mordechai, Yesh Mefarshim, some explain the Batei Kisaot Shelanu Shehem Be'omek. Oh, so now we're getting to something interesting, right? So says the Mordechai, our bathrooms, he says, the excrement goes down, into the depths, right? It's like a big hole there, a big excavation. So he says, if there is a partition which separates it from the rest of the area, so it's considered to be like bad smell which has no source. So he says this resembles like the bathrooms of the Persians, right? As it says in the Talmud, that the way the Persians made it was that right away when you make over there in the bathroom, it goes right away down like a slope, incline, and this way it doesn't stay there, so it goes down. But common, like we explained before. Okay, so he says, so he says the din of the law of Persian bathrooms, right, was already explained, will be explained in the chapter 83, right? So as we mentioned already, we talked about this a little bit. What about our bathrooms, right? Our bathrooms are a little bit different than those because we flush it down, but there's a delay. It stays there, until you flush it. But with their bathrooms, what it was is it basically just went down automatically because there was a slope. So it was a little bit different, but really, there's not such a big difference, honestly. Either way, right, it seems pretty close. So there is a dispute amongst the poskim in our generation whether our bathrooms are, like these Persian bathrooms, or are they like just regular bathrooms? There's different opinions about this. Yeah, so that's why, as a general rule, when you're washing your hands, in the morning or for a meal, not a good idea to wash in the bathroom for these things. You should go to the kitchen, whatever, and wash over there because, it's not really for sure that our bathrooms are not really fit, are really considered to be clean, so therefore a person should be careful about that. But the truth is, that according to what he's saying here, right, we just read this issue with the partition, right? That if there's a partition there and it separates between the bathroom and the rest of the area, so then it's more lenient. We can read there, whatever, we can do all kinds of things. So that may also apply to our bathrooms. So what does that mean? If a person has no choice, what should he do? If he has to wash in there, he should close the toilet seat. This way it's covered. So it's like a partition. It's even better. So this way, right, it makes it better, that element. So let's say if a person is flying on a plane, right? So there, the water is coming from bathrooms usually. They actually, on those planes, they do have sinks which are not in the bathroom as well. So the question is if they, if the stewardesses will let you use it though. Sometimes they won't. I don't know, whatever. Sometimes nobody's even there. You can just go and wash your hands there. Whatever. But if a person has no choice, right, on the plane, if he has to wash his hands in the bathroom, so what he should do is cover the toilet seat, close it. This way it makes it better. And of course, if he has to make a blessing, you should make the blessing outside the bathroom. You shouldn't make it inside the bathroom, obviously. Okay, so that's the story there. Let's go on a little bit. So he says, Besiman Peizain, yeah. מתבהר דהד ימינן ריח רע שיש לו עיקר מן אחריו דעת אמות היינו אפילו אם הם עמו בבית דלא קיים עלן כרבי שמעון בן אלעזר דאמר כל הבית כולה דעת אמות. So he says right later on, we're also going to discuss in chapter 87 the issue of what? That if you have a bad smell which has a source, and so then in back of you, it's 4 amot, as we already mentioned. That was said, afilu imhem imo babait. That's even if it's in the house. So what does that mean? Because you don't hold like this rabbi who says, right, because the whole house is like 4 amot. So therefore, the same rule applies in the house as it applies outdoors. That's what he's trying to say. So he says also, we're going to explain the issue of the we already talked about this before a little bit, right? The canister which is used for right, for excretion. When they're behind the bed, these things, in those days they had things like this. Today we don't have it. We have toilets, right? We have running water. So he says we can learn from there also regarding excrement which is behind the bed or whatever, under the bed. Okay, so that's the bit Yosef. We'll see the Shulchan Aruch and take it from there. So says the Shulchan Aruch like this. יצא ממנו ריח מלמטה. Let's say, right, he passed wind, person, אסור בדברי תורה. You're not allowed to learn Torah עד שיכלה הריח, until the smell goes away. ואם יצא מחברו, but if it came from his friend, מותר לדברי תורה, he's allowed to do דברי תורה, משום דאי אפשר, because it's not possible, שהתלמידים קצתם גורסים וקצתם שנים. Why is that? Because some of the people who are learning, they're awake, and some of them are asleep. So because of that, it happens, when they're sleeping. ומפיחים בתוך השינה. אבל לקרות, but it says, however, to read קריאת שמע, אסור עד שיכלה הריח. It's not allowed to do that until the smell goes away. Okay, very good. That's the end of it. So we're done with this chapter. Going to chapter 80. Siman Pei. Short one. But this is also an important one. Important to understand these rules when a person is praying. Okay. So it says in the Torah, let's say, right, a person, he has some kind of problems with his stomach, right? So he's not really sure if he can say the whole Kriyat Shema without passing wind. And also the prayers, the Amidah. So says the Rosh, it says better that the time for Kriyat Shema and prayer should pass. He shouldn't pray like that, right? In other words, he's not sure if he can hold it in. Right? Just better not to pray. Better than to do that than to pray with the body which is not clean. Okay. So then he goes on. So he says, if the time for prayers already passed because of that, he's considered to be anus, right? Which is like, something unavoidable. So he's not blamed for it. That's what he wants to say, right? He's innocent. He's an innocent man, right? So it's considered like he forgot. He didn't pray. So therefore, right? So what should you do if that happened? If the time for Shachrit passed, right? Now it's too late to pray Shachrit. You should do 2 times Mincha. Right? That's the way to do it. In order to make
I'm sorry, I have a question on the Mincha. When he recites the second time, he recites it silently, the Amidah?
Well, what else would you think?
No. Silently meaning, just to himself, but maybe just reading it, because wouldn't that be considered bracha levatala because he's reciting the same blessings, or no?
Okay, so as we discussed this already, we're going to get into it a little bit more, later. Mm-hmm. We're going to get back to this issue, but as we said, right, that men are obligated to pray 3 times a day.
Yes.
Women, it's a dispute in the poskim. Some say 1 time a day, some say 3 times a day, some say 2 times a day.
Yes.
So I guess a lot of the women, they pray like once a day, which is okay. It's acceptable,
Yeah.
But so now the thing is like this, right? For the men who are praying 3 times a day, if they missed 1 prayer, right, they have to make it up, right? That's what we're talking about here.
Yes.
So therefore, if he missed Shachrit because he had stomach problems, right? Indigestion, God knows, right? Whatever, diarrhea, whatever, God knows. So what he has to do is to do 2 times Mincha. So the rabbis obligated him to do that. So there's no blessing in vain. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
It's an obligation.
Okay. Thank you.
But if the women, when it comes to women, though, if you're praying only one time a day, there's nothing to make up there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You don't do it anyway. So what's so if you're praying one time a day and you miss Shachrit, so what did you do? Pray later, whenever you get a chance, right? Whenever you're free.
Okay.
You don't have to do twice because anyway, you don't pray twice a day.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Thank you for the
But
clarification.
if it's a woman who prays 3 times a day, some women do that, right? It's rare, but the big tzadkaniyot, the big righteous women. I heard that my rabbi's wife, Rabbanit Abba Shalom, right? Her name was Margolit. She used to pray 3 times a day, So that was, she was like a very holy woman, She was. Not everybody does that, right? So okay, whatever. Anyway, so if she does pray 3 times a day, then she's like a man, So she has to do makeup, the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because she took it on, as a custom already. So she should make it up.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's the way it works, pretty much, right? More or less. Okay, good. So let's go on a little bit. So as we said, right, that he's going to do 2 times, right? The Amidah. Right, but he says if he thinks that he can, wait long enough not to pass wind to say Kriyat Shema, so what should he do? He says Yaniach Tefillin. Then put Tefillin Ben Ahava Kriyat Shema, between the second blessing and Kriyat Shema, Vivarech Alehen, and then bless on them. Kivan de Anusu, because it's unavoidable for him. There's nothing, there's nothing else he can do. יכול לעמוד על עצמו בשעת קריאת שמע, yes, I'm sorry, right, אנוסו, יכול להפסיק ולבנניח. So therefore, since he has no choice, he can stop there and put the tefillin and say the Kriyat Shema and and then whenever he has to his stomach problems come back, he'll take off the tefillin, right? He has no choice, right? He'll have to take it off. Okay, so that's the story, right? That's the end of the Bet Yosef. But the Rosh is talking about here, when you're wearing tefillin, that's what he's really talking about. You know what I mean? But if he's not wearing tefillin, you can say Kriyat Shema, without problem, because even though he's going to pass wind, it's not forbidden, to say Kriyat Shema. If it happens that he passes wind, so he'll stop and wait and and then continue. So he does have a solution, you know what I mean? But the Rosh is talking more here about somebody who's wearing tefillin, so he can't really do that because he's wearing tefillin. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch, how he paskins here. Interesting. So says the Shulchan Aruch like this: Misha bari lo she'eno yachol la'amod al atzmo v'lepiach al shegmo kriyat shema tefillah. If he knows for sure, right, that he's not going to finish the kriyat shema and tefillah without passing wind, mutab she'avor zman kriyat shema tefillah. Better that the time should pass. Shouldn't pray, right? It's better to do that than to pray with without a clean body. And if the time of prayer is passed, Anus who is that's inadvertent, right? He was forced to do that. He had no choice. Mitpalel mincha shtaim. So therefore, he's going to pray mincha twice. But if he thinks he can, hold it in, the shad kriyat shema, at least for shema, right? So what should you do, right? Put tefillin, yaniach tefillin, ben ha'ava kriyat shema, right before he starts kriyat shema, right? And he blesses there, and he says the kriyat shema, and then takes off the tefillin, right? Whatever. So, let me just make one thing clear, right? So you guys understand. And when it comes to Kriyat Shema, as we said, right, if he's not wearing tefillin, so he can, as we said, right, he can say Kriyat Shema, and if it happens, he'll stop and wait. But when it comes to the Amidah, as we're going to learn later on, right, there's no way to do that, right? You can't, you can't say the Amidah, by passing wind, so therefore, there's no solution like that. So therefore, if he knows, right, that he can't do the Amidah without passing wind, he shouldn't pray at all. That's what he's saying over here, right? That's the thing to do. Let him wait till his stomach problems go away, right? His gas, right? Whatever, his indigestion goes away. And then, right, he'll pray later. So he's exempt, from prayers when he's in a situation like this. That's what he's saying. Okay, that's the end of the chapter. Good. We're going to go now to the next one, which is 81. Okay, so he goes on with this topic, right? קטן שיכול לאכול כזית בקדח, שיכול גדול לאכול דלת ביצים, מרחיקין מצואתו או מימי רגליו. Oh, so he says, right, we talked about this a little bit before, the excrement of the child, right? When does it become already forbidden? At which age of the child, of the baby, right, does it become forbidden? So he says, right, that if this child can eat kazait, right, which is an olive size, right, it's like a half an egg. At the time that it takes for a big person to eat 4 egg size, right, which is about 11 minutes, something like that, right? There's different opinions about that. Some say 7, some say this, whatever. But anyway, the point is, right, that if he can eat that fast, the child, that's already a problem with his excrement. So therefore, you gotta treat it like it's forbidden. Okay, so let's see the Bet Yosef. Okay. So, right, he says Bet Yosef, it's also in the same place, right? This Gemara. יכול לאכול כזית דגן מרחיקים מצואתו מרגליו 4 אמות. Right, so he says in the Gemara like this: he's able to eat 1 kazait, right, to 1 olive size of dagan, right, which is grains, right? So we're talking about bread or a cake or something like that, right? Pasta, whatever it may be. So if you can eat that, or even like daisa, right, which is like porridge, right, something like that, right, which is made out of grains. Same thing. So anyway, if he can eat that, then we have to go away from his excrement, and his urine. 4 amot. So says this rabbi, it's only if you can eat it in a certain pace, right? As we said, right, this pace is about 11 minutes, whatever. Different opinions there. It's not so practical, I guess. But anyway, right, the point is that Amar Rav Chia Bared Rav Yeva V'Gadol. So we're talking about how big a big person, how he eats that fast, right? Even though he's not able to eat that much food, this kid, this baby, so what he's trying to tell you is like this, right? That the kid can't eat that fast, but we're talking about he can eat a kazait right during the time that it takes an adult to eat the whole meal. That's pretty much the story. Rashi explains kazait dagan, right? So we're talking about kazait of grains. Kol hameshet minei keret dagan. So it's talking about the 5 species of grains, right? Those grains, which is right wheat, barley, rye, right, and oats and spelt, right? Those are the 5 species. So we're talking about foods made out of those species, not other ones. Whatever. It's anyway, right? Marchikin mitzoto. We got to go away from his excrement. Mishachal kazait me'elu bechol inyan. So it's whoever ate kazait from this stuff. In any case, achilat shitzuat minim halalu masrachat. But he says, you know why? Because once a person starts to eat grains, his excrement becomes smelly, right? That's what happens. For Kiyat Shema Tefillah, it says that's only when you can eat this kazait, right? As the time it takes for a person to eat, an adult. But it says if that child has to wait more time to eat, one kazait, so it's considered like he's eating half today, half tomorrow. So he says there's a tradition from Moshe Rabbeinu, oral tradition, that says that this is the time, where the cutoff is, where it comes to two eatings combined, one with the other. The time that it takes for adult to eat his his 4 egg sizes of bread. Some say it's 3 eggs. It's machloket. Anyway, right? Mechov. So he says machov masriach ad kanashano. So what does that mean? That the older he gets, the baby, right, the more his excrement becomes smelly because he's eating more grains. When you add midivrei Rashi, seems from Rashi, he says shim katan ze lo achal then kazait. That if this child didn't eat yet kazait, dagan, and marchikin mitzvato, we don't have to be distanced themselves from his excrement. Who ben kama shanim, even though he's several years old, when he odd with varav. So it seems also from his words, lichora she'afa pi she'achal kazait dagan, that even though he ate kazait of grains, im avru yamim rabim, if many days already passed by, at she'efshar lomar shetzua zohi milto dagan. Already, right, that excrement cannot be from that gross grains. Shachal en marchikin mimenu, we don't have to distance from him. Sharet tala ta'am b'shetzuat minim halalu masrachat. Because the reason is because of, as we said, right, that the excrement from those species becomes smelly. But they didn't say, right, how many days are we talking about that we can be sure that's not coming from there. But it says from poskim doesn't seem this way. So what does that mean? They hold poskim that once he gets to that age where he can eat that much, right, dagan, even though he didn't eat it yet, we still have to go distance ourselves from his excrement, and also his urine. Because whenever he gets to that age where he can eat like that, then already his excrement becomes smelly. Okay, that's the end of the Aleph. So we'll go to Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so says Shulchan Aruch, Katan shegia lechlal sheachar kiyotze bo יכול לאכול כזית דגן בכדי שיוכל גדול לאכול אכילת פרס, מרחיקים מצוותו עד מימי רגליו. So again, right, to repeat that, he's telling you that if you have a child who's already at the age where you can eat a kazait, the time that it takes for an adult to eat 4 egg sizes, 3 egg sizes, depending on which opinion you go, then we have to go away from his excrement already, right? Just like an adult. We have to distance ourselves. So the bottom line is like this, right? The Paskins over here, the Shulchan Aruch, that doesn't really matter if he ate now or not. That's not the issue. The fact that he can eat it, that's the issue. Okay, good. So we'll go to Bet. Let's go to the tour. So it says a tour like this. Let's say he was reading, right? Kriyat Shema, whatever, and he saw excrement, in front of him. So he should turn around and walk away from it, right? Until he can, 4 amot. So if it's not possible because there's a river in front of him, something like that, or something which is blocking him, so then he should go towards the side, right? To the sides. Also 4 amot. That's what he says in the tour. Okay, that's the end of the tour. Let's go to Bet Yosef. So it says Bet Yosef, where's the source for this? Baraita Perek Nishameto. It's over there in the same Gemara. Brachot Chavbed Amud Bet. Gemara Haya Omed Betfilah. So it says it like this: if a person was standing and praying, Shehu Baal Keri, and remembers that he's now a Baal Keri. Right? What does that mean? He had a seminal mission. Right, at night, whatever, right? Or let's say he was with his wife. Either way, right? Same thing. So it says, even though this Braita, which is talking about prayers, mitnia lamad mimena rabenu leechal de'ayakol Shema. So even though this Braita is talking about prayers, but the Torah also learned regarding Kriyat Shema the same thing. It's the same idea. Katav Rashba, says the Rashba, mistabra she'eno chozer lerosh. So says the Rashba, you don't have to go back to the beginning. That's the way it seems logical. So what does that mean? If you have to stop, right? No reason to go back to the beginning. Just continue where you left off. So it says if he did pray like that, his prayer is prayer. Doesn't have to go back and pray again. But how do we know that? Because it teaches that he should go in front of it until he can throw it back in back of him. It doesn't say that his prayer is rejected. Like we said regarding, when the excrement is in his place, there is a difference, he says, between seeing the excrement next to you or was found in your place. What does that mean? That if it's in his place, since we require that your encampment should be holy, that he should have checked before he started prayers. But when it comes to in front of him, whatever, there it's just the issue is not so severe. In other words, just he didn't see it. In other words, he just happened to find it now. He didn't see it beforehand. So therefore, it's like more inadvertent. That's what he's trying to say. So what does that mean? Since he didn't know about it beforehand, he didn't really sin by starting to pray. There was no sin there. He was innocent. He just did it right innocently. So therefore, we're more lenient with him in this case. Right, so he says, he didn't see when he started. So he didn't sin. Because the rabbis never required you to check, before you start prayers, right? Look around to see what's going on around you. And if it's only because of this, right? Because of this verse, There shouldn't be any something disgusting by you, whatever. I didn't see it. I didn't see it until now, so it's not his fault. Od Ani Savur says also I hold that even if he found excrement in his place, I know tzarich lachazor, but it doesn't have to come back and pray. Unless it's a place where they usually put their right. Sometimes they put their right some kind of excrement there. Mishum de'az nikra poshia, because then he's a sinner. What does that mean? Since he knew that area right has those contents there, he should have checked it beforehand. So since he sinned by not checking, then his prayer is not accepted. Abomination. But he says if he's in a place where it's not the way to find excrement over there, right? Nobody finds excrement there. Then he's not a sinner. So therefore he says his prayer will not be rejected. It will not be right abomination. That's the end of it. When he read the gam lefi mash katab od, so it seems like also that according to what he wrote, ani savur bera'at so'a kenegdo. If a person sees an excrement in front of him, eno chozer the rosh, doesn't go back to the beginning of the prayers. And it's also if he prayed, his prayer is good, is accepted. Even though it's a place where sometimes you can find the excrement there. But it says they didn't really obligate him to check, all around you, like until your field of vision ends. You can see from that he didn't say that his prayer is rejected. The kamar means said like when you have excrement in your place, you didn't check. It says since if he found in his place, he doesn't have to go back and pray again. Except in a place where it's a way to find their excrement. So it says in this way, in this manner, if he saw right excrement next to him, his prayer is accepted. It says Rabbeinu Yonah katab de'ahi that this case of seeing excrement kenegdo next to him, nabi makom shelo haya lo letzet libo, talking about a place where he wasn't expecting it there. Shaya sham tzo'ah we're talking about a case like that, so he doesn't agree with what we just said before. Mishum ha'ach, he says because of this lo amur she'achazor b'itpalel. That's why they didn't say he has to go back and pray. So it implies from his words that if it wasn't a place where they should have been careful not to pray there because it's likely to be there. So there is their excrement. Then his prayer is rejected. Just like when they found excrement in his place. So he says the halacha, what is it like? So he says we go like the Rashba because he was Batra, right? So Batra means what? He's like the later generation of the Rishonim. Okay, another reason why we go like the Batra, Rashba, because he was Rabu Hak, he was right expert in halacha, and also because he was the later generation of the Rishonim, of the former authorities, of the earlier authorities. Okay, whatever. Anyway, right? That's the story with the Bet Yosef. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch and how he sums it up here. So what does that mean? The Rashba was lenient, right? So we'll see how that comes out. So it says the Shulchan Aruch like this. Let's say he was reading Kriyat Shema. All of a sudden he discovers, right, that there's excrement there. No, he didn't see it before, right? That's what we're talking about. So what should he do? Let him walk away from it, right? Until it's behind him, right? 4 amot. If it's not possible to do that, for instance, there's a river there, or some other thing which is holding him up there. Then he should go towards the side, right, and leave it on the side. Walk away from it on the side. So he says he doesn't have to when he starts to read again, right? Once he walks away, he doesn't have to start from the beginning, rather from the place where he stopped. Makom shepasak. Rabbeinu Yonah, but it says Rabbeinu Yonah has a different idea here, right? It says Im haya b'makom she'er lo tet libo. If he was in a place where he should have been paid attention, that there's excrement there, then he has to go back to the beginning. So as we said, right, we don't paskin like this opinion. We paskin like the Rashba, who says that even if you found it a place where you should have been more careful to check, you still don't have to go back to the beginning. Okay, very good. That's the end of the chapter. Yeah, we have time for a little bit more. Why not? We started late, might as well finish late. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Okay, so we're almost done with the laws of Kriyat Shema. 2 more chapters left. So we're humming along very well. Baruch Hashem, thank God. All right. It's because of you ladies, you're consistent. That's why. When you're consistent, you get a lot done. But when you're not consistent, one day here, one day there, then it doesn't go so well. So I ascribe it to you. What can I tell you? The secret to learning Torah is consistency.
Like you mentioned, one law today or 2 laws a day.
Exactly, yeah.
So I was thinking, okay, so
Right. Two halachot every day, right?
Yeah, 2 halachot every day. And thank you. Yes.
That's it. Okay, good. So it says in the tour, right? So now he's talking about, right, how moist doesn't have to be the excrement that should be forbidden. Asikna Amar Rava, says Rava in the Gemara, Tzoa kecheres asura, meraglaim kol zman shem matpichin perush tofeach kedei latpiach. So when it comes to excrement, if it's like clay, it's forbidden. Or when it comes to urine, right, as long as it can make you wet, right, just moisten, so it can moisten two times. What does that mean? For instance, if he puts his hand on it, there's going to be enough liquid there. If he puts on something else, so he's going to get moisture from that. But if it's not so moist like that, mutar, it's allowed to read. So then what does it mean that the excrement is like clay? They conclude over there in Gemara, even if it's so dry, that if he throws it, it'll break apart. Asur, it's still forbidden. Until what? It gets so dry that if you roll it, right, it'll break apart. Because by throwing it, it will break apart much easier than by rolling it. But if it gets cracked, right, by way of rolling it, then it's like dust of the earth, right, and it's allowed. That's what the Torah says. Okay, good. So let's see the bit Yosef. This is also a short chapter. So says Bet Yosef, he brings a source for this, right? Also in the Gemara there, Kafei Amud Aleph, Amar Rava. It says Rava, Hilchatat Tzuah kecheres hasura. So says Rava, right? Even if the excrement is dry, like clay, right? Like earthenware. Umeraglaim calls man matpichin. Also, like when it comes to urine, all the while that it's moistens, right? As we said. And then he says, Mash katav perush tofiach al minat kedei latpiach. As we said, it has to be like has to wetten your finger and then wetten something else afterwards. In other words, a double step there. Kan ken katav rosh sham. That's what Rosh says. This is the language of the Rosh. Meraglaim calls man shemetpichin. So he says urine, as long as it makes wet, moistens. Haino tofiach latpiach. It means it moistens twice. First your finger and then something else. Ketana kama de Rabbi Yosef, like the first opinion of Rabbi Yosef. Kach peresh gaon. Before Rabbi Yosef. Kach peresh gaon. So the Gaon explains it. Zal ad kanashano biur advarim. So it says, how do you explain that? The Gemara, meaning because we say in the Gemara, let's say that it's a machloket, it's a dispute in the Tanaim. Nivleu mutarim. That if they're absorbed, it's allowed. Don't nivleu masurim. If it's not absorbed in the ground, it's forbidden. Rabbi Yosef says, calls man shematpichim. All the while that it can moisten, right? What does that mean? It's got absorbed in the ground. And what does that mean? It didn't get absorbed. If you're going to tell me that it got absorbed, so it doesn't moisten, it's already that dry. Rabbi Yosef Haino Tanakama, then it'll be the same thing as the first opinion. Rather, it's saying that it got absorbed. The end you can't really see it anymore, right? It doesn't make it's not noticeable. If it's not absorbed, it means that it's noticeable. You can still see it. The trace, you can see the trace. The Ata Rabbi Yosef, so comes Rabbi Yosef to say, calls man shematpichin hu de asur. As long as it moistens, it's forbidden. Ha rishuman nekar, but if the right, as we said, the trail, it's recognizable, shara, it's allowed. Lo, it says Gemara says no, not like that. The Kuli Alma, everybody agrees. Calls man shematpichin hu de asur. Everybody agrees that if it moistens, right, it's forbidden. Ha rishuman nekar, but if it just you can see the outline of it, right? Shara, it's allowed. Here we're talking about it can moisten your hand and then something else. That's what they're arguing about. Rashi explains Tanakama Ba'e, that the Tanakama, the first opinion, Ba'e almenat that piach, right? He says it has to be strong enough to moisten twice. First your finger, then something else. Rabbi Yosef Mechmir, Rabbi Yosef is even more stringent. Umashma the Gaon. So the Gaon right understands this. Shavia Rosh that the Rosh brought. That we should say, right, the conclusion of Rabbi is like the first opinion. Because if you're going to tell me that it's like Rabbi Yosef, no, then why does it push it out and say no? That everybody agrees that only when they're right, they're moistening the asur that's forbidden. So it says, just give me 1 second. Okay, sorry. So, as we said, right, that yeah. So haki haba mokmed divleu. If you're gonna tell me I was talking about absorbed, the ene shumanikar that you can't see the traces. Hava tek Rabbi Yossi, we'll kill Rabbi Yossi. Ela vadai hainu tama. So it says must be the reason is that dache that it pushed the wiser push it out kihechi delete kitana kama, because it should be like the first opinion, not like the Rabbi Yossi. Okay. The Rambam katav says the Rambam. Gimel Mechot Kirat Shema, the third paragraph of Kirat Shema. So it says Rambam like this: if the urine was absorbed in the ground, it's gonna, if it moistens your hand, asur l'piot kenegdam. You're not allowed to read there. Mashma sheposek zechol shetofchin almin. So it implies that he paskins that even though it moistens your finger, we know it doesn't moisten something else afterwards. Because that's the way it implies the simple language of Rabbi. And that which we said that has to moisten twice, that's they're arguing about. That means to say that that's what they're arguing about. Tanakama, the first opinion says, he doesn't require that it should be right? Moistening twice. This is what it means to say, that if the then matpichin klal, that this is what it means to say, right? That if they got absorbed, that they're not, they don't moisten at all. Even though you can still see the trace of it, right? Mutar, it's allowed. But it says if they were not absorbed, rather they moisten, asur, it's forbidden. Rabbi Yossi says, calls man shematpichin mutar. So as long as they moisten, it's allowed. Unless they moisten twice. So he says now comes out the good opinion of Rabbi, like the first opinion, the Rabbi Yossi, which is before Rabbi Yossi. Even though the language of Rabbi is like Rabbi Yossi, but since Rabbi Yossi is answering the first opinion, so therefore we should explain that it's talking about when it's enough to moisten twice. All the Ishtamar says, furthermore, there is to say, that which it says, that let us say that it's like a dispute in the Tanaim, this issue. Lo arava ka'eh, it's not going on Rabba, ela amora'eh. So going on the other opinions there, the other rabbis. The ifligu le'el, that they argued above, the mora amar, because one opinion said there, calls man shematpichim, all the while that they moisten, mora amar calls man shevishumanaka, and one says no, it's when it's the trace is still visible. But dache, no, and it pushes it out there and says, no, lo, the kuli amar rishuman nikar share. Everybody agrees that if it's just the trace is visible, it's allowed. But it's only if it moistens, it's forbidden. But when it comes to moistening twice, so then it argues the first opinion, so we don't require that it should moisten twice. Rabbi Yosef, right? But Rabbi Yosef requires that it should moisten twice. Uman de Amar calls man shematpichim katana kama, and the one who says, right, that all the while that it moistens is like the first opinion. Even though now lo ate it's not really according to everybody. That which he said that the trace is visible, shara, that it's allowed. Miha ate comes according to all opinions. And the one who says that, but the one who says that when its traces are visible, it's forbidden. Adkan mokela ketanei. Then it says machloket like the Tanaim. Ve'ate ketana kama comes like Tana kama. Koma comes to the Rabba leka leakshuya. Says in any case, according to Rabba, there's no question. Lema ketanei, right? The ihu it's a machloket Tanaim. It's the dispute in Tanaim. The ihu maskanat hilchata kamar. Because Rabbi is telling you the conclusion in the halacha. Tehavia calls man shematpichim, that as long as it moistens, uven nema deatek Rabbi Yosef. But whether we say it comes like Rabbi Yosef, ben nema deatek kama, or the first opinion, no kashya, it's not difficult at all. Deata leashmoina comes to teach you delchata kyahi. Tana says the halacha is like the first that Tana. Yilkach enanu lefaresh matpichim deamar Rabba. So therefore, we shouldn't explain that which right that if it moistens, that said Rava, that it moistens one time, like the simple meaning. Daniel martivin hayad, that means it moistens your finger, whatever. Even though it can't moisten again somewhere else. If it comes like Rabbi Yosef, according to Rashi, or alternatively, whatever the Gemara asks there, that Rabbi Yosef is coming to say, calls man. All the while, that they moisten, then it's forbidden. But if the trace is recognizable, it's permitted. We learned the halachazakim. I forgot the echidahu, even though it's a minority opinion, right? Single opinion, whatever you want to call it. When it's coming like the first opinion, like we explained, so it comes to teach you like this, right? Even though Rabbi Yossi was saying in general, right, his opinions are accepted, and we paskin like him. But here the halacha is not like him. Usamag katav, and the smag says, Im that if the urine was absorbed in the ground, and you can't see the trace of it. Mutar likro kenegdan. You can read there. That's what it says in the bit. So there's a little bit of a wonder. How did he paskin against the conclusion of Rava? So he says, what's the halacha? Bottom line, right? We should pass it to Rambam. He says, what does that mean? If you can moisten one time your finger, even though you cannot moisten, right? To moisten again, asur is forbidden. Even though it says in some texts, Katub Sifrei Rambam, it says in Rambam, Kemosh Katav Samad, like it says in Samad. Hadavar Baru, Shenuscha Muteti, but it says it's clear that that text is not correct from the Rambam. Okay, so I guess we'll stop there. We'll continue next time. As Hashem, there's still a little bit more to do here. I don't want to keep you guys up all night, you know. If you want to stay up all night, we will, but you know. You're gonna be sorry. You're gonna be sorry in the morning. That's the problem.
How far do we have, Kavat Haraf, if you don't mind?
Yeah, but we got another 5 minutes, whatever, you know. But the problem is, I have another chavuta, you know, so
Okay.
I can't really go that far. I can't go beyond 10 o'clock. So, Bezat Hashem, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming. Be blessed with wealth, health, happiness. I appreciate your consistency. Hashem will bless you with all the wealth and all the good things in life. Good family, good husband, good children, all the good things. Bezat Hashem. It's very special that you take your time out for this. And we'll see you tomorrow. Chazak Baruch.
Thank you very much.
All the blessings. Bye.